The build potential in Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is insane. So in the true spirit of the game, I've put together what I call the For Those Who Come After build, where you essentially sacrifice yourself to not only deal a significant amount of damage, but you also buff the rest of your party in the process. And oh yeah, you don't actually die. So let me take you through my ultimate death build, including all the Pictos and skills you need to make it work. The concept itself is pretty simple and revolves around three key things: dying immediately once a fight starts, dealing a bunch of damage to the enemies when you die, and then coming back to life and buffing yourself and your party. Now I've included links in the description below for the location of all of these Pictos, so if there's any of them that you don't have in your inventory, be sure to go there to find them all. But most of these are ones you can get relatively early, making this a pretty solid mid-game build option. The two most fundamental Pictos that you'll need to be able to kick off this build are Auto Death, which is a Picto that basically kills you immediately after starting a fight, and Death Bomb, which deals damage to all enemies when you die. These two Pictos are going to work together to trigger death from the start of a fight and then deal damage in the process. The next Picto we'll want to use is Energizing Death, which gives all characters in your party +4 AP after you die. Once again, this is just a great way to start out the fight. Not only are you dealing damage right from the start and inflicting burn, but you're also filling up your party's AP bars.
Let's finish this.
Now from there, we want to move on to phase 2 of this build, which is ensuring that we're dealing the most amount of damage possible from the Death Bomb. To help with that, we'll want to start out by equipping Augmented Strike, which is going to give us a 50% damage boost on the first hit. From there, you can equip First Offensive, which is a Picto where you can deal 50% more damage on the first hit, but the trade-off here is that you'll also receive 50% more damage on the first hit you take. So that's something you'll need to be aware of if the Death Bomb doesn't outright kill the enemy. From there, we can use Glass Cannon, which gives us the ability to deal 25% more damage, but the trade-off here is that we also take 25% more damage. If you're going up against a boss or an enemy that you're pretty sure isn't going to get immediately killed by the Death Bomb, like some of the later game enemies, you might only want to equip this one to one member of your team. That way you're not taking additional damage outside of the initial Death Bomb window. Next, we'll go ahead and equip Immaculate, which gives us a 30% increase in damage until a hit is received. This works out for us either way because we're really only using it as a way to deal additional Death Bomb damage. Next, we'll use Confident Fighter, which gives us a 30% increase in damage, but the trade-off here is that you can't be healed. Again, maybe only equip this to one member of your party so you're not taking on some unnecessary risk for some of those later game enemies. Another good all-around Picto that I like to use is Teamwork, which gives you a 10% damage buff when your entire party is alive, which ironically is something that does actually work with Death Bomb to give you a little bit of additional damage. Next, we'll want to use Roulette, which is just a good all-around Picto that you should probably have equipped all the time, no matter what your build. This gives you a 50% chance to deal either 50% damage or 200% damage. In just about every situation, the risk is always worth the reward, but depending on which way the roulette rolls, it will pretty significantly impact the amount of damage you're able to get from that Death Bomb. And then of course you'll want to use Painted Power, which is the Picto that essentially removes the damage cap and lets you deal more than 9,999 damage. Now, there are no spoilers in this video, but this is a Picto you get as part of the main story at the end of Act 2, so if you're earlier in the game than that, just know that it's something that'll be available to you eventually, and it's definitely something that you're going to want to take advantage of. And finally, we want to move into phase 3 of our build, the Resurrection, where we'll essentially be brought back to life, but not only that, there's some additional buffs we can apply to ourselves in the process. Now the main Picto we'll want to take advantage of here is Second Chance, which will bring you back to life once you've blown yourself up, and will give you back 100% of your health. Of all the Pictos, this is the one that's most expensive in terms of Lumina, costing 40 Lumina points, which is a lot. Now if Lumina isn't a factor for you, by all means go ahead and equip this to every member of your party. But if you are strapped for Lumina like I am in this playthrough, I typically only equip to one of my characters and then I have it set as a Picto rather than a Lumina, so it's not costing me all those Lumina points. But again, if Lumina isn't a factor for you, you can basically replicate all of these Pictos across every member of your party and you'll essentially be tripling the amount of damage you're able to deal. So that makes this a really powerful build option, especially in the later stages of the game when you have a more leveled up character and better, stronger, more upgraded weapons. Now next up, I like to equip Aegis Revival, which is a Picto that will give you +1 shield when being revived. A great complement to that, no matter what your build, is Longer Shell, which also increases the amount of shell you're given by 2, giving you +3 shield right from the start. From there, we'll equip Powerful Revive, which applies Powerful for 3 turns on revival. Powerful is a status buff that gives you +25% to whatever character it's applied to, so it can be another great way to kick off a fight. Now you can also use Powerful on Shell, which automatically applies Powerful when applying Shell, but the downside here is that it costs 10 Lumina to equip, whereas Powerful Revive only costs 3, making it the more efficient option. And lastly, I like to equip Rejuvenating Revive, which applies regen for 3 turns once revived. Regen is another buff that gives you 10% back of your health at the start of each turn for as long as it lasts. All of these Pictos are going to complement each other really well and are going to help you make the most out of being revived and will set you and your party up for success for the remainder of the fight. Now another fun variation of this build is to take it on as a solo fighter rather than with your entire party. A solo fighting build is another really powerful complement to just about any other build you like to run, but it is certainly high risk, high reward. In this situation, you'd basically want to swap out any of the Pictos that buff your party, like Energizing Death and Protecting Death, with Pictos that buff you when you fight alone, like Solo Fighter, which gives you a 50% damage buff when fighting alone, and Last Chance Critical, which increases your critical chance to 100% when fighting alone. Now, if you want to go all in on dealing critical hits and you're feeling pretty confident in your dodge and parry skills, a good complement to Last Chance Critical is the 1, which is a later game Picto that you can get which will reduce your health down to 1, but in return gives you 108% critical chance. With this combination, you should be able to deal some pretty insane damage numbers, especially with multi-hit combos and skills, because you'll be dealing critical hits on every single hit in the combo. Now, one thing to note is that the 1 will override the health that you get from Second Chance, which is supposed to revive you with 100% health. So just know that if you use Death Bomb to blow yourself up, and then you revive with Second Chance, you'll still be at just 1 health because of the 1. So once again, I'd probably only use this combination if you're feeling really confident in your dodge and parry skills, but it can be a really good option if you're just looking to deal the maximum amount of damage possible right from the start of a fight. Alright, and that is my ultimate Death Bomb build. If this video was helpful or you learned something new, be sure to give it a like. And if you have any suggestions or recommendations for how I can make this build even better, definitely let me know in the comments. And be sure to subscribe because I'm working on another build video for all the parry lovers out there. Once it's done, it'll show up on the screen here and you are not going to want to miss it. As always, thanks everyone for watching and I'll see you on the next one.